You clicked on the thumbnail. You know why my mouth is agape. I am in stunned disbelief at the. Okay, hold on. Let me bring in my thoughts. Thank you for coming back to The Great Expanse by John Bad 426 here on YouTube. It is always a pleasure to record these videos. Hold up. Stop it. Oh my god! Oh my god. Episode 5, remember it? We gonna remember it. Pittsburgh Steelers. But for real, episode 5. This... It's hard to put into words how good this episode is. The dialogue... This is something that I would expect to see exchange between two live, real actors, not just voice actors. Rogue and Gambit, Magneto and Rogue, Cyclops and Jean, Wolverine and Jean. The dialogue in this episode is astounding. ASTOUNDING. A great word for The Great Expanse by John Bad 426. Astounding. The dialogue, the pacing, all the X-Men mutant character cameos. Exodus, Cable. I'm still trying to find the words for this episode, so let me try to backtrack. Trish Tilby is a reporter in the X-Men universe, okay? She does date Hank McCoy in the comic books, so the fact that she was talking to him and he started blushing, I was thinking, oh, call back, to the comic book. She's doing an expose on the X-Men. They invited her in. They invited her to the Westchester Mansion, so it's not a secret anymore. And she's interviewing the mutants. She has, oh my god, the scene between Scott Summers and Trish Tilby. The rage. That little peek into the dark side of Cyclops. When he just exploded and talked about, you're normal, that's why we lied to you. We have to lie to you normal people because you're normal. You don't get it. You don't understand everything we go to. And he could not tell her that the baby that he had, he didn't lie to her. He didn't know she wasn't Jean Grey. He can't tell her this. He can't tell her there was a clone of Jean Grey named Madeline Pryor, and that's the child's mother. And the awesome way that the X-Men are using their powers, the way Nightcrawler's is bam, 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 bamfing all over the place. Taking like Gambit and Rogue, like, I don't want to say on a tour, but just showing them around. Jean Grey, the real Jean Grey, using her powers to like be like, was she like on the riverbed itself? And like she's like pulling these images out of the water. Like, do you know what kind of concentration, what kind of power that demonstrates? I don't even think I can explain it. I'm just assuming that she's manipulating the light molecules in the water, based off the glare of the sun, even from the surface, to create images. Wolverine's there. She's like levitating. Like, her powers are like coming back to her. She's an Omega level mutant, Jean Grey, and it says she's still like trying to retrieve her memories. Oh, then there's an exchange between Scott Summers and Jean Grey. That's just amazing. And I'm glad Cyclops didn't back down, because that was the first thing I said. It's like, Jean, you don't even know what your memories are, so back off. Okay. Now I'll say this: when and I'm jumping all over the place because this episode I'm just mind blown from this episode. Genosha is being admitted to the UN, the United Nations. Okay, and they want Magneto to be there. They want him to see it firsthand. In addition to Magneto being there, there's some other mutant heavy hitters there. Sebastian Shaw, who is the Black King of the Inner Circle or the Hellfire Club, along with the White Queen, Emma Frost. Callisto was there, and someone else was there. Who was it? I can't remember off the top who else was in that council. Banshee was there, and Moira McTaggart. Okay. And basically they said that we want Magneto, who's now the leader of the X-Men. They said they want Magneto to be the king of Genosha. Almost like a ceremonial figure, okay? And Magneto says, I will accept these terms under one condition. And he says he wants Rogue to rule with him as the queen. And that's where these tremendous scenes between Rogue and Magneto and Rogue and Gambit come from, okay? And basically, Gambit's saying like how much he loves her, and Rogue has this awesome soliloquy, not a soliloquy, but great dialogue, like Like, I can't touch you, but I feel you, but I can't touch you. And Gambit saying it's more than just skin. Great stuff. Bring back Bodamayo. Bring back Bodamayo. If this dismissal was not something egregious. But bring back Bodamayo. And then, and again, like I said, I'm skipping around. All right. There's a ball. Okay, let me get this point off while it's coming to me. Because again, like, I'm mind blown still. Genosha is sort of reminding me of Krakoa, which is a current storyline in the X-Men comic books, which I don't really read right now, but it's like all the mutants are gathered on Krakoa. And that's the only thing that came to my mind, okay? Because, you know, the Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost are there with Magneto. These powerful mutant figures are all together. Because in the comic books, they're all together. Apocalypse is there, Mr. Sinister is there, Magneto is there, I think Professor X is there in Krakoa in the comics. I'm just saying, it just reminded me of it, okay? So again, the dialogue is amazing! Amazing! So then there's an attack, okay? But before the attack comes, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot this point. Madeline Pryor is in Genosha. Madeline Pryor, the mother of Cable, the baby mama of Scott Summers, Cyclops. And near the, now, okay, again, as I said, stuff, I literally just finished watching the episode. I was curious as to why the main Citadel, why the main Citadel on Genosha, which has these large statues of Magneto and Professor X, is shaped almost like an Egyptian, like, pyramid almost, not quite in the pyramid. So immediately when you see Egyptian aesthetics, you automatically think of Apocalypse. So I'm thinking, can they spin Apocalypse? Can they write him into this episode? I was wondering that, okay, only because of the shape of the Citadel. But at the end of the episode, there's music playing. All right, we see Dazzler. We also see somebody that probably would never have ever made the X-Men animated series on Saturday mornings. I do not remember the name of him. His name will appear here. He's a mutant. His skin is not attached, but you see his skeleton. You see some of his insides, and it's like a blobby figure. And I was like, there is no way on earth Fox would have allowed Houston and Lowell back in the 90s to put this character in. But he's in there today. All right. But the episode was just so pulse-pounding. It just felt so real. So out of nowhere, Cable appears to Madeline Pryor, who is his mother. And he's saying, stop the music! Now, I don't know if he's saying that because he already saw it in the future. And he body slid. That's what he calls his time travel. He body slid back to that time to warn Madeline Pryor, perhaps. But instead of obeying, she's going, oh, your eyes. It's like he's there for a warning, lady! So he said, stop the music. And he said, it's too late. Stop the music. So then we just see these green explosions in the background. And I'm like, who could this be? And it turns out to be like part of Madeline Pryor's, like, her psychic message or whatever. And it was like a sentinel, sort of like with a death face. Remember in the very first episode? When Madeline Pryor was trying to probe Henry Gyrick, I believe it was, in the desert, and like something interrupted her, and she says, we got to get there fast. I'm assuming perhaps that this is the Sentinel that has the psychic powers or whatever, because Madeline Pryor and Scott Summers had a psychic rapport, and Jean Grey sort of like noticed that Madeline Pryor was kind of like eavesdropping psychically on her and Scott Summers' rapport. And that's where her and Scott Summers had their little fight, their little tiff. So I said all that just to say this. This like almost like the Living Tribunal. It's like a 3-headed sentinel bot. It's almost like it has like a cockroach body, and it deploys all these smaller sentinels. And I'm like, dang, the sentinels, like, they have this beam that's just blowing people up. Like, people are getting bodied in Genosha. They're dying. And then we just see these awesome displays of power by Magneto, Gambit. Gambit is doing everything he can. He's throwing cards and blowing up sentinels. Rogue is there. She's demonstrating her powers, whatever. Nightcrawler is kind of taken out kind of early because he tried to teleport Magneto and a bunch of mutants away. But enough energy hit him so it like burned through his shirt, so he's like unconscious. So then Gambit, he's on a motorcycle. I don't remember where the motorcycle came from, but it works. So he's driving towards this big sentinel carrier. I'm gonna just call it a Tribunal Sentinel. I'm gonna just say it that. Tribunal Sentinel. So I think he does a wheelie and like kind of like tries to like get close to it, and he gets stabbed in the side. Like this thing just comes out of nowhere and just stabs him. And I'm like, that was the first time my mouth dropped open. It was a gape, A-G-A-P-E, a great word for the great experience by John Bett 426. So I'm like, Gambit just got stabbed. So then the thing, now remember this thing is huge, all right? So it's bringing Gambit into his, like right in front of his faces. And then Gambit smiles, because I guess he's playing dead. Then he smiles and goes something like, gotcha. So then while that thing is stabbing him, he charges it with his energy, okay? He's charging it. It's turning purple. The big Sentinel Tribunal, or whatever, blows up. It blows up. Gambit destroys it. And Gambit dies. Gambit died in the explosion. And it ends with Rogue holding his charred corpse, saying, I can't feel you. And the episode ends. I was just like, oh, grade A++. A+ for this episode. Remember it. And that was the last thing Gambit said before he blew up the Sentinel Tribunal. Because that's what he said to Apocalypse. He said, the name's Gambit. Remember it. So that's what the episode title is based off of. Something he said to Apocalypse in the episode Obsession. Alright. So Gambit dies. From what we see. Alright. Now, Hank McCoy is a genius. Maybe they get him, I don't know. Maybe somebody has a healing factor. I'm not putting it past mutants. But it looked like Gambit bit the big one here. And I was stunned. I was in stunned disbelief. But this episode is an A+. One of the greatest cartoons I've ever seen. One of the greatest cartoon episodes I've ever seen. Very dramatic, not over dramatic. Display of powers, Jean Grey, Magneto, Gambit, Rogue, Nightcrawler, awesome stuff. I definitely wanted to see more from Exodus. But just great animation. Cable body sliding. Like the animation is stellar and stunning alliteration. Okay? But since I'm lost for words, I gotta end the video here, because otherwise I'll just be going dead for the rest of the video. But if you've liked this video, if you like my take on the video, if you love the episode, remember it. Leave a comment, please. Leave a dissertation if necessary. Leave a comment down there, David Brent style. Alright? Do your part, I'll do my part, so the Great Expanse by John Bett 426 can and will expand. It's in the name. And I still can't believe it. I cannot believe what I've just seen.